podcast, Come Through with Kayla's Thoughts. I am your host, Kayla Kennedy, and today I will be discussing the validation for Black people's success. This has been an ongoing topic for a while now where African Americans feel the need to explain or validate their success to other races. And today I have my very special friend, my sorority sister, Jasmine Cooper, here, and I will be interviewing her on what she thinks about this topic. Jasmine, can you say hello, please?
Hi everyone.
Okay, so on Instagram, there's this page called the Melanin Shade Room where it basically provides different topics and trends surrounding the African American community. And this topic that we're going to discuss today, I felt personally. So, with my sorority sister Jasmine, I'm just going to ask her a few questions on how she felt about the post. So, Jasmine, my first question for you, because the post says, give me a second.
hmm
The post says, I also want us to get comfortable with black people being successful from doing the bare minimum. Other races have been doing it for decades, but black people's successes always needs to be justified. Decolonize your souls. My first question for you, Jasmine, is in your case, what is the definition of doing the bare minimum?
For me, I would say doing the bare minimum. I would say just being, not to be rude, but being mediocre, like being average.
No, I wouldn't call that mean. I feel like the bare minimum is kind of like the bottom of the barrel, or whatever they say. I'm using that term. I feel like doing the bare minimum is like you don't have to do much, but you're still acknowledged for it, I guess.
Exactly.
All right, my second question for you, because of this post, is as an African American woman, do you feel this comment resonates with you?
I do. I feel like we are always taught like you have to work twice as hard or you have to be twice as good as your white counterparts. And I see that every day in law school, right? So like obviously African American people are not very well represented in so it's this constant pressure of like proving that like I earned my way here and like I had to be exceptional in the application pool to even get a spot here to even be seen as worthy. So I think it's really crazy how much pressure we put on black people to just be excellent to even get any type of recognition.
That is very true. And your law school is a predominantly white institution, if I'm
Yes,
correct.
yes, it is. My 1L class is 151 people.
Oof.
And out of those 151, there is eight black students.
Oof. I don't know if I could do that, but that does sound a little rough, I'll admit. And this actually leads on to my second question I was going to ask you is do you feel that you have to justify your success more since you do attend a predominantly white institution, even in undergrad?
Do I feel like I have to justify my success more?
Successes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you constantly have to prove why you are where you are, why you got to that place in your life, right? So people might think, oh, you're at law school because they needed diversity. They needed to add diversity to the class, but they don't realize how excellent you had to be to even one get to the position to apply to law school and two get to the position where the admission team was comfortable admitting you, right? So like all the black students that I've talked to, they were top of their class or they had X LSAT number or they had straight A's and they did all these leadership things. And I think it's a constant push that like you have to be this excellent individual to even be any type of recognized in any space. In any space, like any academic space specifically, but also I'm sure in the workplace whenever I get there.
Soon, Jasmine, soon. Well, in the next 4 years, I can say the workplace.
Yes.
So you talked about, how black people have to be this type of or display this type of excellence to even be acknowledged. So do you feel, have you ever felt uncomfortable like having to justify your success or having to be, the epitome of black excellence?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I felt that a lot, especially at Monmouth. I feel like Monmouth is a great school. It's a great regional school, but it's not Harvard, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was questioned a lot at Monmouth, like, oh, like, well, you got here because of affirmative action. And I'm like, do you understand, like, the amount of things I went through in high school to get to this position? Like, do you understand? I graduated as valedictorian. Like, I had this, like, SAT. I did all of this extracurricular activity to stand out on my application. So I feel like we're constantly having to justify ourselves. And it can be exhausting. And it shouldn't be that way. I feel like, again, not to be rude, I feel like white people, it's okay to be mediocre and they can get by being mediocre. Whereas a black person, like, mediocre is not going to cut it if you want to make it in the world.
Yeah, I feel like that's the sad reality of it all because you do, especially to be seen or be noticed, especially at a predominantly white institution, you have to go out of your way, become involved on campus, have a lot of leadership roles. But for them, they can just, be a student here. And I don't know, of course, it's not fair, but that's just how society is, being a person of color, being a woman of color. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, how can we change it or how can we make them see things from our perspective?
That's a loaded question. I I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know how you can necessarily change it without, I think, just, continuing to progress and continuing to make spaces more diverse and more reflective of society would make, those types of tensions and those expectations subside a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. I don't know. For me, diversity has become like more like a gimmick than an actual purpose or an action
Mm-hmm.
taken towards equality. Because I feel like a lot of people are just doing diversity because everybody else is doing it. And like, usually when they say diversity, it's like not even at corporate level. Like, you think about Amazon, like big corporate companies. The diversity is like in the warehouse jobs or like people getting paid minimum wage. It's not diversity on like the CEOs or presidents of public relations, presidents of communication, all that stuff. So I'm a communication major, so that's all that's coming to my head right now. But you don't really see people of color in like the big boss positions, earning six figures a year. So it's like, is it really diversity or you're just doing it because you don't want people attacking you for having like an all white staff?
Exactly. We actually talked about this at one of our diversity trainings, and they showed us the data over like a longitudinal study of like 10 years, I think. And it showed the diversity of like incoming associates at a law firm, but then it showed it 10 years from then and like where those numbers were for partner or for like, senior partner or a senior associate. And it just showed how the black associate, well, all the associates except white men actually diminished in their percentage. So if they started with 11% African American women coming in as first year associates, by the partner track, it was like 2%. And it just shows how like they try to, front load their diversity, but like something in the system is not working to retain those numbers and have people have access to, promotions and harder jobs.
That is again, like I said, that's a sad reality. I feel like that number, if you are trying to increase diversity, you think that number would keep increasing over the years.
Right.
But sadly, that's not how it works. So I guess my next question for you is, for people to realize how much black people have to justify their success, do you think it would be better if we made like white people known about what we have to do or like how we're viewed?
Um, I think how we're viewed is a good one, but I don't think, like, I think it's great to celebrate Black success. I really do. Like, it's an accomplishment, like a lot goes into it. But I think also the danger of that is that we start to tokenize people, right? So like Barack Obama, like he's the epitome of Black success. Like everyone looks up to Barack Obama, like, oh, he went to Harvard, like he was a summer associate here, like. And when we like make those, I don't want to call them tropes, but when we idolize people for reaching a level of success, which can be white success, right? Like defining success is going to an Ivy League, right? So when we see Black people reach those spaces and then we celebrate them and say, like, look at the barriers they broke down, now that's like how we're measuring our success off of a standard that's not based on us, right? So I think that's the danger, because we're deeming Barack Obama as a successful man, which he is. Like, he became president of the United States. You know, he went to Harvard. He did all the great things, all the civil rights work. But also, who's to say someone who went to an HBCU for law school is not just as successful, if not more successful? You know what I mean? So I think it's a really hard balance. I don't really have the answer on how to, strike that balance. But I think we just have to be cognizant of like what we're putting emphasis on and why, from a social perspective, we're putting that emphasis on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I also feel like Black excellence or Black success, it can also be criticized by other Black people, if that makes sense. It's like like, I don't know, maybe this is cliche, but like think about a rapper and he's like buying a super expensive car, but he's just like, he just came out as a newly announced rapper, so they're like, how do you even have the money to afford that car? Or like even rappers' girlfriends who are more like, they're not as successful, they probably don't have a college education, and, they're kind of just not there along for the ride, but they're an important part in the rapper's life. But people are like, do you do anything? Do you just stay home while he makes all the money? So it's like, how can we measure that? And why are Black people so judgmental of other Black people? Like, you see someone successful and they're winning in life, why aren't you happy for them? Why are you criticizing them because they're successful?
Right. I feel...
No, go ahead.
No, I said I feel that. Like, I think we are really critical of ourselves, but I think that's just because the society we live in and we're under such a microscope. Like, I think it's human nature to like mimic the pressure that is put on you put on others, and I think it's a sad reality, but it's a reality. We are definitely very hard on one another.
But I feel like people in other races see that, and that changes their view on us. So it's like, people could be like, wow, they're judging this girl for, I don't know, purchasing like a Bentley, and she's only released her song like a week ago, and it's like, isn't that good? She's able to afford a car, but people are seeing it like, you're too young to have this kind of car, or like, you're not as famous yet, you're wasting your money.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't seem fair, but we all have our own opinions and we all have our own thoughts, and we're allowed to have freedom of speech. So I guess if people see that, it's up to them to choose whether or not how they interpret that.
Very true.
And I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't want to call it Black on Black crime because it isn't, but I guess it's just Black on Black hate. And I feel like that's another thing we can improve on, because I feel like if we want other people of other races to respect us, we have to respect each other first. Right. There shouldn't be so much negativity in our community, because one, we're minorities, and we are an oppressed community. So you think there'd be a little more unity and harmony, but it's not. And sometimes it's a little hard to be on social media because I see so much of Black on Black hate. And it's like, you should be cheering on this person's successes, even though it's not yours or it's not yours yet. You can still be optimistic about the situation.
Definitely. I feel like I was just talking about this to like my friend, because we were talking about like Beyonce and Jay-Z, and how they get a lot of slack for like the wealth that they've accumulated. Like I think they do like some kind of ad with Tiffany or something. Like they got a lot of slack for that.
Yeah. Beyonce was the first African American woman to wear like the Tiffany diamond.
Right. Exactly. And I'm like, we should be happy for them. Like they literally built a brand and built it from nothing. So like why do people want to tear other Black people down when they do, quote unquote, secure that level of success and wealth that we deem as like very desirable?
Yeah, Beyonce got a lot of backlash for wearing that diamond, and I'm like, it's Beyonce one, and like she's the first African American woman, and like I feel that it's sad that we still have to say there's a first African American for this or for that, but like
exactly,
it's an accomplishment, and I guess the history behind the diamond, that's why people were giving Beyonce backlash, but still she's the first. That means she's opened up the segue for more African American women to wear that diamond.
Exactly.
I don't know, I just feel some people just don't want to be happy for other people. And it's like, I know we keep saying this, but it is a sad reality. Like, I wish things were different, but it's not going to change in a day. It's not even going to change in the next 100 years, probably.
No.
What a great country we live in. Social media. So my last question for you, Jasmine, before I let you go, is that do you feel as you progress in your life and you get older that you'll kind of stop justifying your success? Or it's just going to be something like automatic that you feel that you'll just continue to do or have to do?
I mean, ideally I would hope I wouldn't, right? I would hope I would be able to just exist in the world and do what makes me happy. But I think at the end of the day, like we're human, right? And we are all small little like dots within society, and we're ultimately like we're part of a social system, right? So I think Black women, Black men, like people of color, especially in white spaces, are always gonna have to justify themselves, and you're kind of at a disadvantage if you don't, right? So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think in an ideal world, I wish I wouldn't, but I'm not going to lie, I probably most likely will for the rest of my career, just because that's what you have to do to survive.
That's very true. And you're in law school, so you're going to be a lawyer. And that's a field that is predominantly white. So you definitely will have to put your foot down more than once and let people know that you've worked just as hard as them to get where you are.
Yes.
And on that note, I wish you a bunch of success in law school. I hope you have a very successful first year. And I can't wait to see you make partner at a big firm and like make trillions of dollars a year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine, so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, that was our guest, Jasmine Cooper. I love her so much. She's my sorority sister, and she did go to Monmouth. She is a Monmouth alumni. She graduated in May, summa cum laude, and she had a 4.0 GPA throughout her 4 years of Monmouth, 4 years here at Monmouth. And as you can see, she's an intelligent, amazing individual, but yet she still has to validate her success. She has to explain to people why she's got straight A's, or explain to people how she got into law school, stuff like that. So now what we're going to do, I am going to move on to the comments of this post because I want to highlight a few of them. I feel that they're very important. Okay, the first comment is we always have to work twice as hard while other people steal our ideas and get credit for it while also watering it down. And this is what Jasmine and I were talking about. Basically, that black people, we always have to go the extra mile just to be seen for someone who might be doing mediocre work and getting more recognition for doing that. It's hard because we're seen as like incapable, we're seen as unprepared and unprofessional, so we have to work extra hard to make people see us in a light that is positive. um and like she said, like white people, they don't have to do much to be recognized, but for us it's completely different. We're seen as like being in last place, and the only way to get to last place is to try to find your way to first place so people could recognize you and see you, that you have worth. And I feel like black people aren't valued in society until we do something extraordinary. And it's like we do everyday things that can also be recognized and seen as good in society. Now, the second comment here, it's about Steve Harvey's daughter, Lori Harvey. So the post says, well, the comment says, this is why I'm always aggravated when people talk stuff about Lori Harvey. Like, why y'all mad? She comes from money and is in those close circles. Let her be pretty silent and paid in peace. Now, Lori Harvey, like I said, she is Steve Harvey's daughter, and Steve Harvey is a celebrity. He's a known comedian. He hosts a Family Feud, so he has his name out there. So it's like, why are people complaining that she has wealth or that she has nice things or can afford those nice things? Why can't people just be happy for her that she didn't have to grow up struggling, have to grow up broke, have to grow up in a terrible school system? Her family had the means and the money to get her to be successful. So it's like, why are you mad at that? You should be happy for her, celebrate her success, because it is a success. And I feel like for the black community, people need to realize that when one of us accomplishes something, it spreads out throughout the whole community. We all accomplished something. So I feel like that black on black hate is not healthy for our community because we are already marginalized and oppressed. We need to be there for each other and we need to support each other and see each other's greatness. We have to do that for ourselves before anybody else can see that. Now, this comment was spot on because it's how I feel personally. And she's basically saying that people in the black community, we resent other black people. And honestly, that never really made sense to me because we're such an attacked race and we're so criticized by other races. So to not want someone in your community who understands where you come from to not be successful, it's very confusing to me. And this is true. A lot of people are spiteful. A lot of black people are spiteful towards people who have, those rags to riches success stories. And it's like, why are you upset at this? They're doing better for themselves. They're making a better life for themselves, for their family, for future generations to come. This is something you should be supportive of. This is something that you should want to do for yourself. And I feel like a lot of black people are spiteful because they don't want to put in the work to be just as successful as that person. And that's the thing. It's a double standard. We have to put in the work. We have to work twice as hard to be recognized and to become successful. This is not something that we can really have a choice on. If we want to, make six figures a year, have a nice car, do something meaningful, we're going to have to put in the work for it no matter what. It's just how it is. Now, this comment I feel is also very true. And I don't feel like this comment is supposed to attack anyone. It's just very honest and blunt. But this is very important because you can teach your children, to, save their money, get a car, become independent so they don't have to rely on anyone. But children see what their parents do, and that's how it affects their lives. So you have to put actions to words that you say. So you telling your children, like, don't be like me, you know, you should go to college, you should get a good job, you should do this, you should do that. But they also need to see you do it, or even see you bettering your life, because that will give them more motivation to better their lives. And this isn't just about, teaching your kids how to be independent. It's also about generational wealth. There aren't a lot of wealthy African American people in America compared to, white people. So trying to cultivate that generational wealth so kids can grow up in wealthy families, or upper middle class families, go to nice schools, not live in bad neighborhoods. That's something that has to be created throughout the generations of the family. Alrighty, guys, that's a wrap to my first episode of my podcast. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I hope you reflected. So I guess I will see you next time. I don't want to, reveal anything, but let's just say next time will be a very colorful topic. And if you look at my screen, maybe that will give you a hint. All right, guys, have a good night.